Open your Instagram, your TikTok, or your YouTube watch later list right now. What do you see? If you're anything like me, it's a digital graveyard. There are recipes for a sourdough starter you'll never bake, 10-minute ab workouts you haven't touched in 3 years, and life-changing productivity tips that, well, they haven't changed your life because you haven't actually watched them yet. We've all done it. We see something brilliant, we hit that little ribbon icon or the save button, and we feel a tiny spark of satisfaction, like we've just acquired a new piece of knowledge. But then, we never go back. But let's call it what it actually is. Saving content is the new procrastination. It feels productive, it feels like you're doing research, but in reality, it's just hoarding information you'll never actually use. Why do we do it? Because it's a mental safety net. You might think, I know saving this 40-minute tutorial on 18th century pottery is probably useless, but it makes me feel good. It's that just-in-case anxiety. You feel at peace because you think, if the world ends tomorrow and I suddenly need to make a clay pot, I have the instructions. It's not going anywhere. But here's the irony. I download everything. I save every link. And then, when the moment actually comes and I need that specific piece of info, I can't find it. Why? Because it's not organized. It's buried under 3 years of top 10 travel hacks and how to bake sourdough. But there's a comfort in the mess. We tell ourselves, I don't have the answer yet, but I have it in my pocket. In psychology, this is known as the collector's fallacy. We mistake the act of collecting for the act of learning. In the 19th century, people would buy beautiful, expensive editions of books and line their shelves with them. They felt smarter just standing in the same room as the books. But acquiring information is not the same thing as processing information. In our world, the save button is the modern version of buying that book. When we save a link, our brain experiences a pseudo-reward because the act of saving feels like progress. The brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine, the same hit you'd get if you actually read the article. Your brain essentially checks the box. Mission accomplished. We are now stoic masters. Except, you haven't actually processed a single word. You've just bought the gym membership without ever stepping on the treadmill. But there's a darker side to this. Have you ever felt a weird low-level anxiety when looking at your saved folders? That's likely the Zeigarnik Effect. Psychologist Bloomer Zeigarnik discovered that our brains remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks much better than completed ones. When you save a post to read later, you're creating an open loop. Your brain tags that post as unfinished business. Now, multiply that by the 500 posts you've saved this month. You're essentially walking around with 500 open tabs in your mental browser. We save things to reduce our fear of missing out, FOMO. But ironically, the more we save, the more we feel a fear of losing out. We're terrified that if we don't save that specific infographic on the best morning routines, that knowledge will vanish forever. So, we save it to quiet the brain. But because we never revisit it, the loop stays open, contributing to that heavy feeling of digital burnout. So, why don't we just go back and read them? If we found them interesting enough to save, why is the revisit rate so low? Enter decision fatigue. When you finally have 20 minutes of free time, and you think, I'll go through my saved posts, you're met with a wall of content. You have to decide, do I learn about history? Do I look at that DIY furniture hack? Or do I watch that video on existential philosophy? Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice. When we have too many options, we often choose nothing. The mental effort required to sort through our own digital junk drawer is higher than the effort it takes to just keep scrolling on the main feed. The new is always more exciting than the saved. The new is effortless. The saved is a chore. And let's be real. Between a chore and a scroll, the scroll wins 9 times out of 10. There's also a deeply personal reason we save things. Our saved folders are often a museum of our ideal selves. When you save a recipe for a 5-course French dinner, you aren't just saving a recipe. You're saving a version of yourself who has the time, energy, and skill to cook like a Michelin star chef. We save things that represent who we wish we were. The saved folder is our aspirational identity. Deleting those posts feels like admitting that we aren't that person, that we're never going to learn to code, or speak Japanese, or knit a sweater. Keeping them saved is a way of keeping those possibilities alive. It's a comfort blanket. We aren't just hoarding data. We're hoarding potential versions of ourselves. So, how do we stop the madness? How do we move from collector to creator? The one in, one out rule. For every new post you save, you have to delete or actually watch one old one. The search, don't save method. Trust the internet. If you truly need to know how to fix a leaky faucet in 6 months, Google will still have the answer. You don't need to warehouse it. The weekly purge. Set a timer for 5 minutes on Sundays. If a post doesn't spark immediate excitement anymore, trash it. Remember, your worth is not measured by the amount of data you've bookmarked. Information is only power if you actually use it. Otherwise, it's just digital dust. If you found this helpful and you're planning on saving this video to watch later, maybe just give it a like instead and try to remember one thing we talked about today. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one.